Hey everybody, it's Gil here with the Sailing Vessel Dream Chaser, and in last week's video we took you along out on the water. We did some depth sounding, we talked about a house we're very interested in, but we wanted to sound it out and make sure it was good. We went down to the Everglades and we did a cool airboat ride. If you didn't see that video, I'll put a link to it right up in this corner. And this week we're going to continue some of our adventures, continue looking at this house we talked about, though I must tell you I don't want to jinx anything, so I probably won't post anything about it until we know for sure one way or the other. Let's see, what else are we going to do? Because I'm back in town, I started going back on my Starbucks dates with McKinley, and we had a bit of a good time. She asked for the camera, so I'm letting her film herself from time to time. It's mainly for my own entertainment, but I'm sharing a little bit of it where I think it makes for some entertainment value, if nothing less. And you see the RV here behind me. You know, one of the things that's always a challenge is you got to do some maintenance on it, and I learned an interesting lesson while I was gone for those 4 months, and I'll go into some detail about what that is and how we went about repairing it, which is pretty helpful, and I think it'll help others as well. Hope you guys enjoy this week's video.
And one thing Florida is just plumb full of are rainbows. It's really cool. You get to see this. It seems like every couple of days we're seeing them again. I don't know, makes me smile. Came out of the shower this morning, looked outside, saw this, made me smile. Kinley and I had our little weekend date day at Starbucks, and then we walked over to these little shops in downtown Fort Myers. They had some pretty funny pot holders and stuff. I took a few photos of them. They cracked me up, but then we found some things that were more kid appropriate, and we got a little something here.
I have a glass heart in here, Grandma. I like it.
Yeah, was it called a Venetian heart?
Mm-hmm.
It was, huh? It was pretty?
Yeah. Can I just take it out?
You want to show me? Sure, go ahead.
If I drop this, it's in this little thing. Found it.
What you got?
A heart.
Let's see. Oh, that is pretty. Is it glass?
Yes. I gotta be very careful with it.
Yep.
Or else it'll break. Like, it'll break.
It would. So, you know what that is? It's called a Venetian glass heart. Do you know what Venetian means?
What?
It means from Venice, Italy.
Venice?
Yep.
Venice, Italy?
In Italy, yeah. Whoa, that was close. So McKinley and I decided to come and do our little Starbucks date. It's so good to be home to be able to do this kind of stuff again. But we came to Starbucks in downtown Fort Myers, and behind me is this cool as can be, I think they call them banyan trees. And I remember seeing them down in the islands in the Caribbean. We saw one in Hawaii that was just unbelievably huge as well, but really cool looking. I mean, the just size and scope of this thing is just amazing. It's almost like a mangrove where the tree branches grow up and they grow these sort of roots down that become additional tree trunks like what you see right here behind me. It's just crazy looking, but cool nonetheless. That is one big banyan tree.
Don't you want to be inside this thing?
Yeah, let's go in it. There's a squirrel.
Here.
Right in front of you. Right there. Look on the root.
Oh. Hi. Hi.
Look at that tree. That's amazing. Hey, look, you can go right in there. Yeah, go ahead.
Enter. Look here. Buddy. Buddy, I'm gonna catch you. Buddy.
Oh, he's way up there. Look at him go.
Where? Can you get him?
I don't think I can get him, sweetie.
Arms. Okay, let's just leave him.
That is a cool banyan tree, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's take lots of pictures, buddy.
You find a friend? Hey, buddy. What's he eating?
Acorn. Because that's what they eat.
Very cool.
Look. Look at him.
It is cute, isn't it?
Because he's scared of me.
I think it's like at the campground. They're pretty used to people, aren't they?
Yeah, but this guy isn't.
Nonetheless. So, anyway, we're off to the grocery store and we're going to be doing some grilling today.
Hey guys, we're doing things. We're just walking around this companion tree. Hi guys, we're inside this tree, and I do not know what to do, Grandpa.
Well, you do whatever you want. You wanted to record.
Grandpa, we're inside the tree.
I know. What are we going to do inside the tree?
I don't know.
Do you want me to hold the camera while you film yourself? I'll just follow you.
Yeah. Hey, we're going inside this tree. Let's go. Where's the Go, Grandpa. There's one here. Oh, no, Hey, I can just walk right down here.
Go ahead.
I know several people have posted and asked how my dad's doing. He's actually doing really, really well. It's been 2 weeks now since I left New Jersey, and he's doing well. He's now doing an outpatient physical rehab. He's driving himself there. It's oddly comforting actually being able to put we put a camera in at the house just so that I can look in and make sure everything's okay, and that's been a little bit comforting. It's funny, you can do these little day briefs. It just kind of shows you what's gone on in the day. But if at any point in time I try to reach him or something and don't get him on the phone right away, it's sort of comforting to look at the camera and be like, oh, I see. He just he went out to the back patio 10 minutes ago, or it looks dark. Maybe he went to the store, and it's just a very comforting thing, though a little weird, a little voyeuristic almost, but it really is comforting to be able to look into the living room and see him walk by. We have an angle here where we can kind of see, if he's in the living room, in the dining room, walking through the kitchen, going in or out the back door. So the view on sort of this primary covers all of those areas, which is really, really handy. How about your broccoli? What do you think of that?
You know what?
Send that video to.
Mom and Grandma Helen.
Okay.
I just score on myself. Oh.
Don't put your fingers in there, it could get hurt. Good early morning. I have the not so fun job today of needing to replace some valves that actually allow the dumping out of the tanks in the camper. But I think before I get started in that and explain a little bit more and show you what I'm going to do, I think it's time to make myself a good old cup of coffee. So I'm going to start this morning off right. Well, good morning, everybody. I thought I would come on outside. It's a beautiful morning. It's a little bit warm. Not too humid yet, but I love the idea of being able to get up in the morning. It's still quiet. Most of everyone's sleeping. Make myself a good cup of fresh coffee here and just relax as I contemplate the task of the day, which is going to be replacing some gate valves on the RV. And I'll explain what that is in just a minute. It's not exactly a pleasant job. As you know, on the boat, everybody has a story about the head. No different on the camper, and unfortunately we learned a bit of a lesson while I was away from the camper and Deb and the girls were here, and that lesson is going to result in having to do a not so pleasant job. I think this one's actually not as bad as having to do it on the boat, but we'll see, just because it's accessible. So I'm going to hand grind me up some coffee and relax. This is my Zen moments of the day. Got the water boiling in the electric kettle, and I don't know, it's like my meditative moment. It gives me a few minutes to just sort of contemplate life and ground a little bit and get my day kicked off right. I always start with blooming the coffee a little bit, just a matter of pouring a little bit of water over the top to get all the grounds covered. And then you let the air bubbles come on out of it. I missed it a little bit. And what that is that's releasing all the gases that are in the bean. It gets rid of a little bit of the bitter taste. I like my gooseneck pour. It lets, for like a pour over, it really works well, but for the pot here, it doesn't matter as much. All right, I feel like that's bloomed enough. We'll let this steep now for about 4 minutes or so. So now it's really just a matter of pushing the plunger down on this, and I tend to do this fairly slow. I like to try and take 15 to 30 seconds to do it. I never have that patience, so I usually end up going a little faster. I know I'm not a purist. I put cream in my coffee, but I like it. Man, there's something about those first couple sips. I love to smell the coffee when I first make it, and then that first sip where I'm sucking as much air as coffee in because I know it's hot, so it's almost a little bit of a slurp sound, but it helps keep it a little cooler and able to drink those first couple sips, and it's those couple of glorious moments. Well, I said it's a lovely morning. I see blue sky, blue sky. There's some gray right above, but it's starting to rain pretty good. I scooted this in a little bit, and other than my arm, I'm staying dry. While it's raining, I'll share with you a little bit about what a gate valve is. The way the camper works is all the drains and the sinks and the shower all go down into a big holding tank that sits underneath the camper. And the same thing happens with the toilet. The toilet actually drops straight when you flush it. It opens up and it drops straight into a holding tank. And then both of those holding tanks are plumbed out to the side of the camper. So if you've never seen one of these, if you ever look at a camper when you see one driving down the road or something, you'll notice a tube about that big around with a cap on it and a couple of valves usually near it on most campers. And one is for the gray water, so the shower and sink drains. The other is for the black water, the toilet drain. And what you do is, we're at an RV resort kind of place where there's actually a sewer connection right at the camper itself. So we have a hose that we take that little cap off, and you screw this hose onto it, and it's a 3-inch flexible hose, and it just goes right into a sewer drain in the ground. And then when you need to dump the tanks, you slide open this valve, and think of it like a square valve, and the pipe actually comes up to it and then out the other end. And in this valve is a gate hooked to a lever, and when you pull the lever, you basically are sliding the gate open. Like this, and you pull the lever, everything flows out. You do that with the black tank first. All the black water flows out, and that's going to have toilet paper and waste and everything else that didn't necessarily break down in the time you had it there. And then when it's empty, you close that valve and you open the gray water valve, which is just up pipe of that a little bit. So basically all the gray water, the drain water, then flows out, and essentially it rinses out your sewer hose, right? So we're lucky we have a dump set up right here at the campsite, but a lot of places don't, and you camp for a weekend or a week or whatever it is, and then as you're leaving, you pull the camper up to an actual dump location as you're leaving, and you dump your tanks and you rinse that out and whatever. Well, while I was gone, for convenience, we just left everything open. So we left the gray water valve open, so as you took a shower or as you used the sinks, the water would drain into the tanks and just immediately go right out the sewer connection. We did the same with the black tank, but if you think about what happens with the black tank, and this may get a little bit graphic for a second, but the emptying of the tank on a normal basis, it's a, let's just call it 25 gallons. I don't know how much it is. Let's call it 25 gallons of a mixture of waste, toilet paper that's been breaking down, and liquid from the flushing of the toilet and any urine, etc. When you open that valve, the sort of suction, the flow of 3 inches of water flowing out of that tank tends to create enough current that it takes with it all of the stuff. We were leaving that valve open, so essentially what would happen is as the toilet would flush, I'll just use the example of toilet paper here because it's not as disgusting to talk about, but as the toilet would flush, a bit of water from the flushing of the toilet and any toilet paper would drop down to the bottom of the tank. So think about a square tank that sits directly under the toilet. There's an opening in the top with a tube that goes down into it that goes into the tank itself. The wet toilet paper would fall down, hit the bottom of the tank, and the liquid that went with it would sort of flow out. And now you had this sort of wad of wet toilet paper there. Think about when you were in grade school and kids would wet their toilet paper and throw it on the wall and it would stick. Well, it's not much unlike that. So unfortunately, we left that open the whole time, thinking, well, Deb won't have to deal with it. I'll just rinse out the tanks when I get back. By the way, there's an automatic rinsing system on the camper. You can hook a hose to another connection, turn it on, and it has a bunch of jets that blast water down into that tank. And that helps clear and clean the tank out when you're doing the dumping of it. Well, what ended up happening is, after I was back a couple of days, I went to use the toilet. When I flushed it, the water didn't go down, and I thought, oh, that's weird. Something must have just got stuck, right? There's a ball valve in the top of the toilet. There's a hose that's maybe 18, 20 inches long that goes down into the top of the tank, and then it's the tank itself. And I couldn't get anything to go down. I just thought something got lodged in there, maybe. Well, what I ended up finding, and I had to use, an old wooden broom handle kind of thing. I pushed down in there, and essentially what happened is, if my tank is, let's say there's 12 inches of room from the bottom of the tank to the top, I had a mountain of waste, toilet paper, waste, whatever, that had continued to fall in one location. The liquid ran out, and this mountain began to form in there of waste. There wasn't that amount of water to sort of carry everything with it. So a bit of a disgusting job. We ended up using the cleaning system that's built into the camper, right, where we put high pressure water hose on it and blasted water down into that thing for a few hours, which was enough to break up the toilet paper and the waste and everything else and have it all flow out. Kind of a disgusting job, but what we also found is by leaving those valves open, right, so again, it's a valve that sort of looks like this, and it opens, it slides in and out of this opening. When I would try to slide it back in, they were very hard to slide in and out because they weren't being exercised regularly. And then when it gets to the end, it actually goes into a lip, right? It actually goes past the opening, and it's not going that whole way. So while it seals it off most of the way, it's not all the way. And certainly that's not something we would want. We hook the camper up and drive away. We would never want any waste to be dripping out of that for sure. So the wonderful job is to take that valve completely out. Lucky for us, they do still open, so I will open them up, rinse and drain the tanks out for a long period of time. As a matter of fact, in just a minute, rain is slowing down, I will go over there and get that water flowing in there to clean it out, because I'm going to have to take that valve out of there, and I want to make sure that anything that's dripping out of there is just water at that point. So they're not an expensive part, but not exactly a fun job now, is it? As we like to say in the boat, well, that's a really shitty job, and so is this one. Here, away we go. But first, I'm going to keep enjoying my coffee. From Gil, Deb, and the girls aboard, well, I always used to say aboard the sailing vessel Dream Chaser, but aboard the land yacht Dream Chaser, aboard sailing vessel Dream Chaser, aboard wandering around Florida right now figuring out what we're doing. But from all of us, we wish you safe sailing and a following sea.